Florida Angel here. And, of course, as promised, I'm doing PickyPiggy, which she was difficult. I had to redesign her a few times. This final sketch here isn't how she ended up turning out. Either way, the doll that I'm using, which is the most fitting of which, is Draculaura. Picking her for the pink skin and the much thicker body build. Either way, to the table. I took her head off, removed the hair and face, and I ended up cutting the back of her head out because for whatever reason, the way that they did the hair on her made it extremely difficult to get the hair out for me. So I cut the back of the head. You can cut more so the front, but I wanted to keep the plugs because I wanted to reroot her. Either way, I cut the ears off, cut a little too much on the first one. Second one, not so much. Was a bit more careful. Either way, this was more so a waste of time because I ended up changing my mind, but I stabbed 4 pens into her hair to mark where I wanted the armature for her ears to go. I ended up trying to use hair plugs so it could already have a hole, just widen it enough for the wire to go through. Of course, with the wire in, I ended up using some clay to build out the shape and also fill in the mistakes by cutting the ears off, although most of it ended up falling off when I was rerooting. I also tried giving her more pig nose, but I ended up giving up on that. Either way, those were the first pass of the ears, and I hated them. I really hated them. Because they were rough, bumpy, and whenever I tried to sand them, I just hit an armature. Plus, I couldn't get it back inside the head. So I went for another round, and for whatever reason, the inside made it collapse. Either way, these two were the final version of the ears. Of course, I painted the insides a much darker pink and also drilled holes for earrings later on. Either way, after that debacle, I painted her scalp yellow, which go for a much lighter yellow than what I end up doing because I used hair salvaged from another doll, specifically from my Summer Kong custom. Note, mark where the ears are going to go. Either way, this is what it ended up looking like afterwards. I extended the bangs farther down her face than what was originally there, although rerooted much more thickly than what I did. Either way, Elmer's glue into the hole. After the glue has dried over a few days, you can reattach the head back to the body, which I had preemptively cut the neck peg because I had issues before. And I also noticed that her face had kind of turned more of a normal skin tone than the pink, which I think that was due to the clay. And that cut in the back of the head gave me issues. Either way, spray the doll down and you can start blushing. For whatever reason, my pastels this time around were super strong. I think partially it was just because she was lighter than what the other two were. But it was a little insane. I end up cutting down a lot of this. Either way, I end up moving on to some orange around the top of her lid. And then some yellow on the lower lid. And I tried using the red pastels for her lips, although it kind of came out a little messy. Every single time when I tried to do this for the lips, it always comes out messy. And for whatever reason, this is when I realized that I needed to paint her hands a different color. So I just ended up using pastels as a temporary method. Either way, I ended up moving on to paints. And I ended up taking her out of frame because I could not do her eyes on camera. I don't know why, but I have issues trying to do it on camera and try to get it right. Either way, both eye whites are there now. So then I go in with some red to do her lips. Hopefully better than what the pastels are. Then I end up taking a Q-tip watered down to try to clean up some of it. As you can see, I took quite a bit off the body. And also the face. Either way, adding more layers, doing her nose pink, and I ended up painting her hands off camera. Now I'm doing the orange upper lid, and then doing a yellow lower lid. Now I'm doing her pupils, a dark green, before flipping her over to try to best mirror it as possible. Then I add in a much lighter green to get a little bit more of a gradient within the eyes. Then of course, I move on to black to give her some black eyeliner, as what is usual for me, and of course also to give her a pupil. And of course, I give her eye shines. I believe 2, and then give her some teeth. Have an open mouth smile like the rest of them so far. And for whatever reason, I was compelled to give her a beauty mark. I think I was trying to cover up all the red streaks and kind of make it look like she was a vampire, which is fitting for what she was, or how she originated. Either way, cleaning up the teeth mark, or cleaning up the white. And now you just spray the doll again as the final coat. Now for clothes. I had to reshoot this. So I bought a bunch of pattern that was oranges, since our scent was, or is, citrus, which is orange. And the top 2 are what I ended up using. For her shirt, which I just used Frankie's sleeves of her jacket and made a top fitting for Dracula's torso. And I used the plate for her circle skirt. And this green I used for the cuffs of her sleeves, a neck, Peter Pan type style collar, and the waistband of her skirt. That's the finished top with the apple charm sewed on, and of course the skirt. I ended up adding like 2 snaps to it because I made it a bit too wide for her torso. Either way, that's what it looks like on the doll, which I was not completely happy with how it looked at this stage, partially because I didn't have shoes. Now, in my original design of the doll, I was going to use the Garden Secrets Twyla doll, her shoes, but I only have one of her and I do not want to steal her actual shoes nor go out and buy another doll of her. But because I have done so many of these ones, I have a box of G3 shoes. And I wanted boots, but none of the boots really fit what I was kind of going for. None of the shoes really fit for what I wanted. And I just couldn't find what I want without actively going out and buying it. Until I realized that I had some Wicked shoes. And I was just fooling around trying to find what fit. I was not expecting these shoes to fit on G3 Monster High dolls. They, for whatever reason, Wicked dolls have much larger feet than the average Barbie doll. Because my Bridget doll, her shoes are the average size, but not the Wicked. Either way, both of them fit, although the boots do fit a lot better than what the other heels do. But I did want to use boots, but I didn't want to use Alphabuzz boots. So I ended up buying these ones off of Amazon. I wanted to use the pink boots, but they would not fit. The black ones fit on perfectly, but the pink ones kept on warping as I was trying to get them on. So now they're on the Dream Besties. But because the Wicked shoes fit, Glinda has a pair that fit the color scheme that I'm going for. So I end up using her Ozda's shoes instead, and end up using an LOL Big Sister doll's socks that were originally a light pink that I was going to dye a darker pink, but left it in too long, so they came out red. But since apples are in her design, it helped bring in more red to her design that was kind of lacking. Although I will say this, Glinda's shoes don't completely fit with the socks. I do have issues getting them on and off of the doll. But even with the shoes, her design was still lacking. So I made this petticoat to go underneath. With this being the final look of the outfit. Now it is time to style the hair. Which, yeah, it was it was a mess. I mean, partially because the previous hair was already up in a ponytail, so it was a lot harder to wrangle. But I tried protecting the face, but the bag wouldn't work, so I ended up doing normal boil washing to get it to lay flat. And the face did survive. That was my biggest concern, was the face not surviving. Either way, I used hot glue to attach the ears to her head. You can use a much stronger glue, but I don't have a stronger glue on hand right now. And of course you can, there's holes. Either way, I cut her bangs, and I'm purposely being a bit more jagged with it. Of course, trimming off the ends and trying to figure out her hairstyle. I was originally going to do an updo, and then I end up doing this half up, half down. And she kind of looks like Sabrina Carpenter, which was totally accidental. And I think it's particularly because she is blonde and the jagged bangs. Either way, I am extremely happy with how she has turned out, especially with how difficult the designing process was. Either way, next member of the Smiling Critter is Catnap, which is gonna be fun. Either way, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time.